So we're going to jump back into Jarnail Singh's testimony into the Post Office inquiry, and they're discussing some requests that have been made by the defence to highlight issues that have happened in previous cases, previous expert evidence, or previous evidence certainly given in court by Fujitsu, as well as known issues with Horizon. And Jarnail Singh sees it as unnecessary and unreasonable and seeks advice from Warwick Tatford. How did he come to that conclusion? Let's jump into the inquiry.
Can we turn then to the unfolding correspondence over the Seema Misra case and Mr. Jenkins' involvement in it, and start with Fujitsu 0015-2843. This appears to be the first communications concerning what was eventually to be Mr. Jenkins' witness statements. And what I'm going to do is track through how they came to be provided. Okay? This is an email exchange, I think not involving you, from Mr. Longman. He says, Jane, I attach a report from the defence expert where he's highlighted a number of problems with the Horizon system. Warwick Tatford has asked that the problems with Horizon that he has raised in his report are replied to in a witness statement form. I presume that an employee of Fujitsu would have to produce the witness statement. In addition to this, the defence have requested the following information. Yes?
Yes.
Can you help why it was that it was the investigator rather than you who was seeking a response to the expert evidence?
I honestly don't know. I can't help you with that.
Was that usual that the investigator would commission evidence like this from Fujitsu rather than you doing it?
I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it. It's such a long time ago. I mean, I can't really... I've been out of this area of law. I can't really deal with too much detail you're looking into. I can't help you.
But would you agree that at the moment here, the communication from the investigator is not treating Mr. Jenkins' evidence as potentially expert evidence? It's asking for a reply to expert evidence in a witness statement.
Yes.
You're not copied into this, I think.
No.
Well, I bet that's a relief. But if this was common practice, then surely you'd remember that, because you'd think, maybe not remember an individual instance, but you'd know whether you'd ever have the expert evidence put to you before and whether you had to gather a response. Maybe it's the case that often the defence didn't submit expert evidence. Maybe they couldn't get it.
Now, at the same time as this was going on, can we look, please, at poll 305-3723? Can you see this is dated, if we scroll down, please, 11th of December 2009. Mark Dinsdale, can you remember who he was?
I don't know, one of the investigation officers, I think, but I don't know the direct instructions from him. I don't know.
He emails Mr. Wilson, Rob, I'm looking for a bit of guidance on this request from John Longman in respect of Seema Misra. That's the one we've just looked at.
Yes.
This is a huge piece of work that could potentially wrap up my team for weeks, and then only to be asked more questions of a similar nature. I've also concerns over the types of questions that are being asked and whether we can actually provide the information. We're a new team and we'll really appreciate your guidance on this, on how to move this one forwards. Are these questions that yourselves need to answer from a legal perspective? Clearly, some of these questions are so unspecified that we could be dragging up Horizon reports for almost every branch over a 10-year period for every single week in question. I hope you can help and provide some guidance on this one. Thank you. And then if we scroll up, please. You send that on to Warwick Tatford, who referenced the email. You say he raises a number of queries and want solutions to the disclosure, which have, in my view, unreasonably and unnecessarily been raised by the defence.
I mean, what is an unreasonable disclosure request? I mean, if they're asking for something you've got, surely it's not unreasonable because it's related to the exact defence they're putting forward.
And you seek advice, and you say this may have a wider implication for the business and look forward to receiving his advice as soon as possible. Can you explain, in relation to this request, why you regarded the defence request as unreasonable and unnecessary?
I can't, because I don't know what information they're requiring.
If we scroll down, we can look at it. It's at the foot of the page. It starts with 1. Please find attached a statement from Eleanor Nixon. Please provide the following information. And then over the page. If you read that slowly to yourself, and then scroll down. If you read 2 and 3 to yourself. And then scroll down. There's a reference to some other cases, including McDonald and Hosey. And then over the page, please provide details of post offices past and present that have experienced losses with the Horizon system, prosecutions past and present that have been brought for theft or false accounting as a result of alleged losses. So go back up to page 1. But why did you regard the defence requests as unreasonable and unnecessary?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay.
Years on.
Can we see what Mr. Tatford said when he replied? Poll 304-4557. If we go to, this is Mr. Tatford's advice. Take it from me, it's dated the 5th of January 2010.
Yes.
And if we can go to paragraph 6 and 7, please, which I think is on page 2. He says, I would wish some further inquiries to be made from Fujitsu. Paragraph 23 of the Castleton judgment refers to the evidence of Anne Chambers. When she was cross-examined, over the page, please, she appears to have had knowledge of an error in Horizon that had occurred at Callender Square in Falkirk. I've seen some civil paperwork in relation to Alan Brown, but not concerning a Horizon error. I don't know if Anne Chambers still works for Fujitsu, but it should be relatively straightforward for Fujitsu to provide full information about what appears to have been a well-known problem at Callender Square. And then 7, I think our disclosure duty requires us to ask Fujitsu whether they're aware of any other Horizon error that has been found at any sub-post office. And he says, I anticipate there will be none, but it's important that the check is made. Before approaching Fujitsu, would you agree that as the prosecutor, the post office was under a duty to disclose any information which the post office, held about, firstly, the Callender Square bug, or secondly, awareness of any other Horizon errors that had been found at any sub-post office?
Certainly, if it undermines the prosecution case and it assisted the defence, that's...
It's quite interesting there, isn't it, that Warwick Tatford didn't think that there would be any known bugs found with the operation of Horizon at that point in 2009. At that point, it's been in place for a decade, and there's obviously been numerous complaints, starting with Alan Bates' complaint as early as 2000.
That's what the test is.
So what did you do then to obtain from the post office itself, before going to Fujitsu, documents falling within either of those categories?
I don't recall what I did or didn't do. I mean, it's years ago. I mean, I can't tell you chapter and verse what we did or didn't do. I can't answer that in, 10, 12 years on.
Did you ever consider that the post office itself owed disclosure duties of the kind that I've mentioned before turning to Fujitsu? Are you looking within itself at all departments or branches within the post office for information that tended to suggest that there were errors within Horizon capable of affecting the integrity of financial accounts?
Again, I can't answer that, but certainly it would have been highlighted to the team internally.
How would it have been highlighted to the team internally?
Certainly this advice would have gone to the head of criminal law team. And then I would have seek directions from him as to how do we go about doing it. But I mean, I can't...
I'm asking about a different thing at the moment. I'm asking about before you go to Fujitsu and asking them whether they have got information about Horizon integrity issues, to use a portmanteau phrase.
Yes.
whether you went to anyone within the post office to see whether there was such information?
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you what we did so many years ago. But certainly, we certainly if we had the information, we would have considered it, and we would have dealt with it.
You see that the way that Mr. Tatford has expressed himself here, would you agree that he is asking that inquiries be made of Fujitsu, the corporation, on both fronts, not inquiries be made of Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, that's what he implied. Well, that's what he's saying, but that's what he's saying. But it doesn't mean to say that we haven't carried out internal inquiries. But I can't tell you how we went about doing that. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't recall. As to how we went about doing it. But certainly, if we had the information, or we would have sought it, I suppose. But I can't answer that. I can't give you, So I don't recall now. So many years ago.
But on the separate issue of, let's put aside what documents the post office has got going to each of these 2 points. When we turn to a third party, Mr. Tatford is advising that the corporation be approached in relation to both issues, not that Mr. Jenkins be approached in relation to both issues.
Yes.
Agreed?
Yes.